This stock could go up huge. However, it is also risky. First off, read this disclaimer carefully. We will look at Manhattan Scientifics. First, the website, then we will look at the charts, the fundamentals, and finally I will give you an introduction into nanotechnology. Yes, this is a nanotechnology company. Nanotechnology is one of the most interesting industries of the future. The potential is huge. Let's first learn a bit about this company. Now let's just read through this. The company's business model capitalizes on inventions and technology from which profits are created through licensing, which is no interesting business model. MSI is dedicated to earning profit for its 8,600 shareholders by identifying, supporting, patenting, and marketing technical innovation by harvesting top technology talent to bring game-changing product to the market. We emphasize novel technology in the nanomedicine space, with the potential to be disruptive and the ability to establish sustainable businesses. As we will learn later on, nanotechnology, it's a very immature field. But that is actually a huge benefit from an investor standpoint. It is hugely beneficial to get in early. We are patient capital with experienced business building partners who bring the perspective of merchant bankers, not venture capitalists. Our approach to assist scientists to commercialize their work is by providing a forum within which the commercialization process is fostered through partnerships with existing companies. The entrepreneurial scientists and engineers who join us create personal success and wealth on an accelerated basis by virtue of ownership of publicly traded Manhattan Scientific shares. This is really interesting. Very interesting perspective on financial markets. Very sophisticated. So here is their technology. Advanced Materials Manhattan Scientific has acquired the exclusive rights to the key patents and IP, and will soon be positioned to enter into manufacturing and licensing agreements. Yes, there is potential on the horizon. NanoMedicine. In 2011, Manhattan Scientific acquired Senior Scientific in 2011 and quickly began the cooperative work to commercialize its nanomedicine cancer detection technology. In 2017, Manhattan Scientific spun out the cancer project as Imagino Biosystems. So let's first look at the charts here. Let's get the weekly data points. Yeah, so you can see that this is the IPO. After that big correction, you see that it's been moving up and down in rather big moves. If we calculate this move right here, this is 1,215%. This move here alone, it was a whopping 341%. Hence, this is a huge mover. Here you can see where it's trading at the moment, and it is around 1 cent. Hence, this is far below even being like a penny stock. I mean, this is a completely different category. The reason why this stock is especially interesting is the recent developments. Let's zoom in. This looks a lot like a rounding bottom in development. We had this significant pullback here. This is the low. If we measure from this intra-week low here to where we are now, that's 263%. To this level, this high is 356%. And you can see that intra-week there's been some very explosive moves every now and then. Does this mean that this is the ultimate low for Manhattan scientists? Well, obviously that's very tough to make that call. However, from a charting perspective, this certainly looks a lot like a rounding bottom. So what happens in a rounding bottom is that you constantly have the battle between the bulls and the bears. Here the bears have most leverage. This is when there's a change. You can see that from a charting perspective, supply and demand, the bulls are starting to build leverage. The bulls don't even touch this blue 100-week moving average until here. Now they are touching and starting to play around above it. You could also make the case that we have a floor around here. We are constantly fighting that moving average. It has gone from being sharply negative to smoothing out. This is very interesting. Looking at the daily data points, you can definitively in these candlesticks see the volatility. This is obviously a highly volatile stock, huge move, not liquid, very small company. We will look at the market cap pretty soon. And also some of the other companies in this nanotechnology space. As far as moving averages goes, we are below the 200-day moving average here in red, but we have been fighting it much more vigorously as of late. If we go back here, way back, you see that here we just every now and then get into contact with it, but as this rounding bottom is forming, you can see here that the bulls are gaining leverage. This is very interesting. Very interesting. This is a classic charting pattern. It's a story of supply and demand, and we will soon get into some of the facts about this industry. Let's get some correlations here. There is a minus 57-ish % between the Manhattan scientists and the S&P 500. Given that there's tremendous chaos in the stock markets, one of the big benefits of with these very illiquid stocks is that these are way too small for hedge funds, mutual funds, ETFs. They're just not liquid enough. That is actually quite beneficial because they're not part of these baskets. Hence, they can exhibit completely like idiosyncratic behavior. Here is my newsletter. This stock is it's among the zeitgeists and in the nanotechnology group. Here you have various nanotechnology stocks. The thing is that these are as close to pure plays as you can get. Because when I design these themes, I prefer these stocks to be pure-ish plays. Yes, there are some large companies that are also doing things in nanotech, but you cannot make the case that those companies are nanotechnology companies. It's like it's a part of what they are doing, but not a significant part. So these are more pure plays. NanoMagic recently had a huge move. You can see the percentage of the 52-week low. Manhattan Scientists, it is 84% off the 52-week low. There's been a move there as well. Here you can see the market cap. So Manhattan Scientists, it's 6.7-ish million US dollars. So this is a small company. And you can see these other companies are also relatively small. Here you can see the price they are trading at, and many of them are, they are below being penny stocks. Yes, that does make them more risky. You can see huge percentage moves, but the reward side is also quite meaningful. Here are some fundamentals due to the very low liquidity and general attention dedicated to this company. I mean, it is OTC stock. Yeah, we don't have much more than this. The beta is around the overall market, but as we saw, the percentage moves can be very substantial. If you go over to Saks.com, they do not have any rating. They do rate the industry. They do categorize as nanotech in the bottom 25%, but that is based on a very a set picture of the recent developments. As an investor, you of course need to look further out. Here you can see some average volume. Let's learn a bit about nanotechnology. Introduction. Now, nanotechnology, that is engineering conducted on the nanoscale, and that it's between 1 to 100 nanometers, and that is really, really small. We are talking about building machines with atoms and molecules. Even though there's been talk about nanotechnology for some time, this is at an extremely early stage. This is, a very futuristic technology, but there's been a lot of progress. Just for some comparison, there are over a whopping 25 million nanometers in an inch. Further, a sheet of paper is 100,000 nanometers thick. This is really, really at a very small scale. It's actually Professor Norio Taniguchi that coined the term nanotechnology back in 1974 in order to describe thin film deposition. Just to give you an idea of how recent this nanotech field is, we couldn't even see atoms until 1981, which from an investor standpoint means that nanotech is at a very, very early stage. However, that is also potentially extremely bullish, because if you look back in the history of technology, like computers, semiconductors, the printing press, you name it, it's during those very early stages where you have these huge opportunities. The first ability we had to see these single atoms, that was by using something called scanning tunneling microscope, STM. Nanotech is incredibly interesting because gases, liquids, and solids can exhibit unusual properties on the nanoscale. They can be stronger, lighter, more flexible, conduct electricity and heat much better. And you could make a very strong case that we are about to enter the golden era of nanotechnology. Yes, this entire field is still very early. Building machines with individual atoms and molecules, that sounds like out of science fiction, but it is becoming science fact. The evolution of instruments, it's praised by scientists because there's been this very nice continuous development. Yes, the current tools scientists have are very primitive to what we will have in the future. Yes, currently the scientists are very limited. That means that the nanotechnology field from an investor standpoint is suppressed, in a sense. Meaning the current prices, they just reflect the current sentiment. And so you need to look a bit further out when it comes to these stocks. There is a strong demand for more efficient machines, especially due to concern about the use of natural resources. And building machines with individual atoms and molecules is extremely efficient compared to the current manufacturing standards, which from a comparative standpoint are extraordinarily inefficient. Hence, in order to sum up, the nanotech space has a very bright future. This is at an extremely early stage, but then again, the people who invested early in the semiconductor stocks, way back in the early days of computers, they are the ones who saw the huge percentage gains. The same thing with the people who speculated on, cryptocurrencies very early, and basically any other disruptive new technology. it's in the early phases that you see these huge opportunities. Yes, there is also significant risks when it comes to these very immature industries that are in, they're not even in the infant stage. I mean, this is, it's barely begun. And because of that, there are very substantial R&D costs, research and developments. Then again, the companies that are able, through their use of nanotech, are able to create new types of materials, they have these enormous business opportunities. Just imagine if a nanotech company invents a new kind of aluminium, an alternative to aluminium, or maybe an altered type of aluminium that is 50% lighter and even stronger. I mean, something like that. I mean, the aluminum industry, as an example, is a huge industry. That would be extremely disruptive, and any company in that space would, go up literally thousands of %. And that is just one hypothetical example. Do I think that Manhattan Scientifics is on the verge of making one of those completely game-changing breakthroughs? Obviously, that is very hard to tell. Looking at the charts, we are seeing some very interesting developments. We are seeing a rounding bottom. Do rounding bottoms always work out for the bulls? No. There's a war between the bears and the bulls. Yes, the bears could come back and break down that rounding bottom, but they haven't done that so far. We currently, on the weekly data points, have a very nice formation. From a more big picture perspective, looking at nanotech, it is very hard to be bearish on the long-term ramification of this technology. But it is still very long-term. It is at the very early stage, but super interesting. Whatever you do, of course, you want to let the trend be your friend. And when it comes to stocks that are literally traded at, at around, 1 cent, obviously you would have to consider that highly, highly speculative investment. Whatever you do, you want to let the trend be your friend.